Hello. Hello. I can't believe I broke my bong. I'm going to have to use my shitty pipe. All right. Chapter 22. You have done well, my son. Thank you, teacher. It has been a difficult process. Resist the temptation to project modesty, Sophros. You've represented your clan and your expression with courage and grace. A poetical phrase, my teacher. Yes, well, you can be certain that Creel will not be so jocular. He is here, in the city. He dwells outside it, amongst the marauders of Windajerry Station. A demonic place, if the rumors are to be believed. To be sure, it is said that only criminals and the spirits of the dead pass its borders now. Sophros pondered the history of that sad place. Once a lovely little city in the foothills southeast of Calustria, it was destroyed during the war in an atrocious massacre known as the Rape of Windajerry. Let me try that again. In an atrocious massacre known as the Rape of Windajerry. Oh man, I said it weird. Known as the Rape of Windajerry. It made perfect sense that Creel would choose to stay in such a terrible place. Is there any word of what he plans to do next? Sadly, no. He is not known to have accepted another contract, nor has he yet collected his fee. Any word on when he will? No. And what of his accomplice, the female assassin? Maki Samuda. She has been spotted in the wilds of the capital. There are indications that she has received employment with one of the 13. Sophros pondered this news. By his reckoning, Samuda was just as responsible for all the deaths on Antares as Creel. Perhaps he would begin his mission by capturing her. Or perhaps he would end her life. Such things were frowned upon within his ranks, and yet she was surely deserving of such punishment. Is that all? Indeed. Good luck to you. Thank you. So that's Sophros talking with his unknown teacher, whoever that is. Oh man, I didn't record any of that. Oh well, I'll do it after we're done here. Chapter 23, Maki. The woman moved through her forms with an ease that belied their difficulty. As she transitioned from one complicated pattern to the next, her pace quickened. Within seconds, she was whirling about the floor like a bumblebee. If said bumblebee were also a world-class dancer and knife fighter. Occasionally, she would pause and conduct a series at a ridiculously slow pace, maintaining perfect form and intensity throughout. As she did so, ribbons of sweat poured from her body, pooling under her arms and down the back of her shirt. Outside the training mats, a line of young trainees watched with rapt and a line of young trainees watched with rapt attention. They were a motley crew drawn from different slums across the known drawn from different slums across the known galaxy. 3 Lunari, 2 Yafrit, and 1 Gillamorian in full liquisuit, visor and cowl removed, his facial muscles rippling as he studied her movements. At the end of her display, she stood straight and bowed from her waist, facing the trainees. Several clapped. The Gillamorian did not. The woman smiled slightly, then strode forward. Gentlemen, what I do is possible for anyone with the desire to be their best. The skills I will teach you will make you deadlier and more efficient than any other agents in the galaxy. And of course, if you fail to meet your benchmarks, your training will end with unfortunate consequences. She turned and walked down the line, chest heaving with each breath. Do I make myself clear? The trainees shouted as one. Yes, Sajai! Very well. She clapped once, the sound echoing around the chamber. Let's see what you can do. The next 3 hours saw the men facing off in brutal hand-to-hand combat. By the end of the session, all were exhausted and painted with blood. All except the Gillamorian. That night, Maki Samuda took the fierce-faced man to her bed. Like most members of his expression, his stamina was incredible. Kicks ass. Hell yeah. Chapter 24. Joran. Gods, what a city. For all the grief it had caused him, Calustrious City was a jewel of jewels. From its elegant skyline to its melodious mix of Just a sec, I'm going to zoom in on these letters here. From its elegant skyline to its melodious mix of architectural styles to its bustling commercial life, Calustria was a place he'd been happy to call home. Now, of course, it was just another place he'd once lived. Most of the people he'd grown up with were dead or out of his life entirely, and his childhood home had been replaced by an ugly condo building. Before he'd even left the ramp, the cameras were flashing. Mr. Barlow! Mr. Barlow! Is there any truth to the rumor that you and Avandi Marshall are dating? Mr. Barlow! Have you returned to Calustria to run for office? Mr. Barlow, how do you respond to the allegations that you put your crew at risk during the Durban blockade? Joran glared at the last reporter, a dolled-up ponce by the name of Sterilius Gaspar. Check your records, gasbag. My crew saved a lot of lives that day. Beside him, Torvald was wincing. Torvald's cameraman, Ariel, had swung out wide to watch. Torvald's cameraman, Ariel, had swung out wide to catch the action. Joran drew a breath and waved at the crowd to shut up. Listen up. We have some special dignitaries here I want you all to meet. There will be plenty of time for questions at the hotel, so just pictures for now. We'll see you at the Palais Deluxe. Grundle Sandeman and Portillion emerged from the ship, resplendent in their finest garb. Exposing Portillion was a huge risk, but Joran considered it his diplomatic masterstroke. Once the crowd saw Portillion, once his face was plastered across the news, Marshall would have no choice but to release the footage of him helping Grundle put out the fire. He would become a hero overnight. As the small clips shot by Therm's citizens started to come out, Marshall would have to produce whatever she had to stay ahead of the story. Portillion was doing his best to look regal, waving his bandaged wrist as if celebrating the injury he'd suffered on the flaming bridge. Grundle smiled and waved, pretending to enjoy all the attention. Captain Sandeman looked like a pig in shit. The sooner Jorn could get away from that jackass, the better. He's not evil, I don't think. But you can just tell he's gonna be a pain in my ass. Good old Joran. Let's see. So, what was going on in that one? Joran returns home. His home is a condo. That was just a dig at Tacoma. Just tearing down neighborhoods to make condos that are half empty. Exposing Portillion. That was cool, yeah. Chapter 25. Faline. Faline was in heaven. The ship that had picked her up had a female captain, a Lunari noblewoman named Yolanda Marin. She'd offered Faline use of her shower, and Faline was loving it. The woman had all sorts of creams, unguents, exfoliants, and elixirs, each with its own fabulous scent. Faline had a mind to seduce anyone on the ship who was willing, just to remind herself of what she was. There were 4 crew members on board, each scummier and uglier than the last. She didn't care about their appearance. She had needs. She still thought about Grundle, though. He'd nearly pierced her shell, if such a thing were possible. She focused on his smell, his heat, his weight upon her battle-weary curves. Feelings were pointless. Intensity was the thing she wanted. Once she was clean, she threw on one of the captain's robes, a gauzy pink number that ended just below her sex. After leaving the chamber, she turned and headed down the short stair to the lieutenant's room and slipped inside. She had no idea what was about to happen. Faline preferred it that way. If there was one thing she was good at, it was being unpredictable. Faline's a badass. Hell yeah. Again, I mean, every time it's a Faline chapter, it's like, what's new? I don't know. She's cool. She's very persuasive. Chapter 26. Ayanna.
Mother Stargazer.
Ayanna looked up from her desk to see the matriarch and her aides walking into the office. The matriarch was carrying a vid device, which she was waving around as if it were a piece of paper she'd found on the sidewalk. Mother Eliane, how can I help you? Ayanna moved around the desk and helped the matriarch into a chair. The woman took a glass of milk from an aide and sipped it. She sighed heavily and handed the device to Ayanna. Ayanna watched as the images played. It was a news program. She felt her heart leap through her chest. Grundle! Joran, Sophris? Goddess be praised, they're here. Even Portillion, the silly child. Mother, this is wonderful news. The matriarch sniffed. I thought you'd be pleased. Go, see your friends. But bear in mind, the media is out in force. Take Chen with you. She's an excellent liar. Chen made a face. Ayana understood what the matriarch meant. The public relations woman was often sent to speak to the media and deliver the official message. Ayana pointed for one of her aides to grab her satchel. Then she patted Chen on the arm as if to say, Come on, child, let's do this. Chen followed, her jaw set tight. The matriarch remained seated, sipping her warm milk. I just love how, like, I don't know, chill the matriarch is. She's a fucking straight up boss. This next one's good, y'all. Chapter 27. Portillion. Can't we go any faster? This is the slowest ride of all time. Portillion was annoyed. For some reason, the driver had chosen to drive them the long way to the temple, through the huge crowds that had come out to see the arriving heroes. Along the way, he watched the myriad videos showing he and Grundle putting out the fire. He was pleased with the reaction he was getting. Unlike Grundle, he was experiencing it for the first time. Grundle smacked the interior window with the back of his hand. Can you pick up the pace, please? The driver nodded and sped up a bit, honking to alert pedestrians. At the next light, he gunned it around the corner, rattling over an aging speed bump. Grundle and Portillion bounced back and forth. Just then, a truck hit the forward carriage, spinning it into a crowd of people outside a cafe. The screams were horrific and instantaneous. Time slowed as Grundle dove to cover Portillion with his enormous bulk. Bullets pierced the skin of the car in a massive barrage. Grundle's armored jacket took the bullets easily. They must have been designed to tear flesh, not pierce armor. They must have been designed to tear flesh, not pierce armor, so he was unhurt, although he'd definitely feel those bruises tomorrow. He screamed in Portillion's ear, Use a spell! Get us out of here! Portillion eased his hands out of his robes, breathing slowly to calm himself enough to cast the spell. The bullet stopped for a moment. Grundle could hear heavy footfalls as determined men charged the car. Whoosh! Suddenly, the car was 50 feet in the air, spinning madly. As it did, blood coated the windows of the forward compartment, spraying from the many holes in their driver. Grundle was impressed. Portillion was blessed with great power. He leaned in again. Put us down! There! He lifted Portillion up to see a large, half-level deck on the side of a tall building. Portillion whispered, wiping blood from his face as he peered across the sky. The joints of the carriage groaned, the car hurtling sideways onto the deck. As it crashed down, it scraped along one side, tipping over onto its roof and sinking into a huge swimming pool. Grundle kicked frantically until the roof tore loose from the car's sides, peeling like a sardine can. The driver floated limply upward, held in place by his seatbelt. Grundle grabbed Portilion's robes and swam to the surface. As he crested, he breathed deeply, hefting Portilion onto his stomach. A half-dozen onlookers stopped at the side of the pool. One brave Lunari leapt into the water and pulled the pair towards the edge. He was a handsome, white-haired gent with an army tattoo on his right shoulder. The rest of the onlookers helped both men out and laid them on their backs. Blood trickled from Grundle's wounds and mingled with the thin water around the pool drains. Down on the street, the shooting continued. "Portilion," Grundle squeaked out, reaching out his hand to grab the boy. Portilion was shaking, gasping, and clutching at his throat. Grundle rolled onto his knees and stared down at his friend. Portilion de Vere was dying. What? Holy shit. Captain Thraxus is dead. Now Portilion. Not dead yet. Haven't seen his body. Them's the rules. All right, y'all. Come back next time and find out how it go. Thanks for playing. I'll see you around the bend. Bye.